Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. How are you all doing? So in today's video we are going to be doing a food challenge. Yeah, in this food challenge I'm going to be playing story for you people also. So guys, watch. Let me win this village game. This I will win you, not the try. I go win you. I'll beat your hands down. Oh yeah, let's start. 1 2 3 go.
I moved into a new apartment with my husband 6 months ago. We upgraded from a single bedroom apartment to a 3-bedroom apartment because he had just gotten promoted at work. So everything was good and life was great. We've had a lot of financial problems in the past and there was a time we could not even pay our rent. So moving into a 3-bedroom apartment meant that things were finally working out for us. We've only been in the apartment for 1 month when I heard a knock on the door one day. My husband had gone to work and I was the only one at home. It was a woman and she told me she lived in the apartment next to us. She said she was celebrating her birthday that weekend and that she was inviting everyone in the apartment complex. She told me this was my chance to meet my neighbors. I was a total introvert and I always kept to myself. I just preferred to be alone than to be in the company of others. I told her I would think about it, but I had already decided not to go to the birthday party. When my husband came home later that night, I told him about the invitation and he said it would be very rude if we don't go since everyone else in the apartment complex was going. So we went to the birthday party that weekend. Let's call my neighbor who invited me to her birthday party, Kate. Kate introduced me to all the other people living in the apartment building and they all seemed nice. Her husband was not around when we arrived at the party. She told us he was stuck at work and that he would be there later that evening. Now, Kate was the kind of person who joked around a lot and she loved talking. And even though I was the quiet type, I realized after a while that I had a lot in common with her. By the time her husband arrived, I was talking to her as if I'd known her for a very long time. She introduced her husband to my husband and I. Let's call her husband Joe. I don't know why, but the first time I saw her husband, I just felt there was something off about him. He seemed nice and everything, but something just felt wrong about him. I had drank a little alcohol by then, so I just thought I was overthinking, so I just pushed the thoughts aside. After we were introduced, I went to sit at the back of the room with my husband. I was looking around the room and I realized Joe's eyes were on me. He just kept staring at me. This made me feel uneasy, so I told my husband about it. He told me to wait for him and then went across the room to talk to Joe. But before long, the two of them were laughing and talking as if they were old friends. My husband came back to me afterwards and told me Joe was a good guy. He said Joe was not staring at me intentionally and that he was sorry. I just nodded my head because I still felt uneasy. I told him I wanted to go to bed. We said our farewell to everyone and left the party. The next morning, Kate came over to thank me for coming to her party. She was with Joe. I invited them inside and called my husband. And even though Joe had told my husband he was not staring at me intentionally, I could feel his eyes on me throughout their visit. Part 2 is Even though I always felt uneasy around Joe, I just kept my feelings to myself. I had tried talking to my husband once about the way I was feeling, but he had just told me I was thinking too much. And it was true, I always think too much about everything. Also, he had gotten very close to Joe, and he kept assuring me Joe was a good guy. Kate had also become a very good friend of mine, and she was at my place almost all the time. Even though I prefer to be alone most of the time, I enjoyed being with Kate because she was always making me laugh. 3 months after we moved into the apartment, my husband changed. He was not as attentive as he used to be. He was always on his phone and he was always working late. I started to fear that he was cheating on me. I went through his phone one night after he went to bed, but I couldn't find any evidence of cheating. When I couldn't take it anymore, I decided to have a conversation with him. I told him how I was feeling. He said he was sorry. He said he was acting differently because he had been given more responsibilities at work. He told me to give him some time and that things will go back to normal soon. And I believed him. But a week after this conversation, I met Kate in the parking lot of the apartment. I was about to say hi when she just slapped me out of nowhere. She started raining insults on me and warned me to leave her husband alone. I was confused and I didn't even get a chance to say a word before she walked away from me. I tried calling her several times, but then I realized my number has been blocked. I went to her apartment and knocked and knocked and knocked, but no one opened the door. I was so confused. Why would she ask me to stay away from her husband? I had no interest in Joe whatsoever. I told my husband what had happened later that night. He told me he will talk to Joe about it when he sees him. He said he knows I will never cheat on him and that he feels there has been a misunderstanding. I couldn't sleep that night. Like, why would Kate think I was going after her husband? My husband had gone out later that night and he was not back yet. I went to the kitchen for a glass of water when I heard voices coming from outside. I peeped through the curtains and saw that it was my husband and Joe. I wanted to hear what Joe had to say, so I didn't go back to sleep. Instead, I sat down in the kitchen to wait for him. I just wanted to know what was going on. After about 5 minutes, the front door opened. I walked towards the living room and stopped dead in my tracks. What I saw shocked me. Joe and my husband were standing in the middle of the living room, kissing passionately. I forgot how to breathe for a moment, and then I shouted. They both turned around to look at me, and then Joe ran out. I looked at my husband in shock and disgust. What was the meaning of this? When did he become gay? What was going on? Turns out Joe was not staring at me like I thought. He was staring at my husband. I just thought it was me. Also, Kate had seen her husband coming out of my apartment late at night, and she had thought he was there to see me. Personally, I think Joe is the devil. I have always felt uneasy around him. My husband was not gay before. He was never gay. It was Joe who had influenced him. He has changed my innocent husband. He has confused his mind and made him do things he would never have done before. We are still working on making things right between us again. I just wish I had never met Kate and
let me hope. Now me win. When I come for this video, I'm the winner. When I talk to Mama Miracle talk truth. Rosanna talk truth.
Mario Emele.
Not be Mario when I mean win. Who shop? Not me shop pass. Now job finish first. Now me shop and finish first. Now me win. Now me win. Near the video, may they see you. My sit down with. Now me win. When I see the winner, the face of the winner, give me the crown. Give me the crown. Now me win.
I bet you think that's finished. You know nothing.
Huh? Shop that beauty, not drop on, shop on.
Ah, okay, see our name.
This is my crown. I won. No, not pay no by manji. Fratelli,